Okay, so today we're going to work on lesson 7.9, and that's page 251 in your math book. And there's a couple of different things that you're doing in this lesson. You are going to be plotting and analyzing the swim data, and then the next pages are figuring out figure-it number patterns. So we'll talk about this first, and then I'll do a separate video for the next part, okay? So I went ahead and drew the line plot information on the board. And so the directions say on Monday, the swim team coaches kept track to the nearest half mile of how many miles each team member swam. And the following data were collected. So it's all of this different bits of data, okay? And it says fill in the missing numbers on the horizontal axis of the line plot, then plot the data set. So what we want to do is we want to look at, we know the range of miles the swimmers swam. So the smallest one will go here, and then the largest here. And in the information it says it goes with every half mile. So when I look here, the smallest value I see, the lowest value I see is 2.5. So I'm going to label this 2.5, and I did that. So 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5, 5, and then we can even do a 5.5 because we know it's going to need to go we're going to use all those lines. And then I'm just going to start plotting the data, and I'm going to cross off each one as I do. So I know 2.5, I have one, and 2.5, I have another, and then I have a 3, and a 3.5, and a 4, and a 4.5, and a 5, and another 5, and I have another 4.5, and another 3, and a 3.5, and a 4, and a 2.5, and a 3, and a 4.5, and then another 4.5. Okay? So you should do that on your own, and you can pause the video to stop and do your own and make sure that you've plotted them correctly, not just by copying mine, but by doing it yourself. Okay? So then I have all of this information, and I'm going to actually go ahead and erase this so we have a little bit more space. Okay? So now, when I look at my line plot data, I can tell that this is how far swimmers swam. We'll call it, that will be our title. Okay? So then number 1 says find the difference between the greatest and the least number of miles each person swam. So what is the greatest amount someone swam? That's right here, it's 5.5. And what is the least amount someone swam? And that's over here, it's 2.5. Okay, it's not talking about how many people, it's talking about the actual distance. So when it says find the difference, you would have to do 5.5 minus 2.5. So number 1, it would be 5.5 minus 2.5 equals what? And I'm going to make you guys do that answer on your own. Number 2, how many miles were swum all together by those who swam 3.5 miles? So when I look at the 3.5 miles, I see that 2 people swam 3.5 miles. So the question asks how many miles were swum all together by those people. So for number 2, my equation would be, I could do it 2 ways. I could do it 3.5 plus 3.5, or I could do it 2 times 3.5. I'll do 2 times 3.5 equals what? Or 3.5 plus 3.5 equals what? So both of those are okay. Number 3. How many miles were swum altogether by those who swam 2.5 miles? So how much was swum by all these people together? I know I have 3 groups, 3 different people that swam 2.5. So it would be 3 times 2.5, or 3 groups of 2.5. 1, 2, 3 equals what? And I could do it with addition as well. I could do 2.5 plus 2.5 plus 2.5 equals what? Number 4. Okay, so we'll look at number 4. How many miles were swum together, all together, by those who swam 4.5? So hopefully you'll see that 4.5, and there's 4 groups of 4.5. So 4 groups of 4.5 equals what? And you could also do it with 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5 plus 4.5, because you have to have 4 groups. And then number 5, I'll put over here. About how many miles were swum all together by the 6 team members who swam the least amount of miles? So we need to find the 6 people who swam the least amount. 1 person, 2 person, 3, 4, 5, 6. So these are the 2 groups. Those are the 6 people who swam the least amount. How much was swum by the 2.5, and how much was swum by the 3.5? So my equation to figure that out would be 3 groups of 2.5, and I would solve that, and I would add that to these 3 groups of 3. 3 groups of 3. And when I get all that together, I know that 3 groups of 2.5, well, super awesome, you already solved that for number 2. So you would know that your number 2 answer, right here, number 3, you already solved that right here in number 3, and then you could add that to 3 times 3, or 9, and then have your answer there. Okay, and you guys should do all of that on your own, and check your answers, and make sure you got things correct. Let me know if you have questions. Okay, thank you.